outside, Damien, it really feels like, you have done things. You've created a strength within yourself by taking these paths. Not very many people take academics seriously.
Mhm.
Not very many people use the military to its full extent for personal growth.
Mhm.
And here you're building yourself up so that you can take care of someone that you love. I mean, that's highly high character, high admiration status right there, man. I don't know if
Oh,
you
thank
feel
you.
that way, but looking from the outside, I've never met you, and I'm like, this dude has got a heart of gold. This dude has some insight. Where does the insight come from? I could do this. I got nothing to lose. It
Mhm.
becomes the most positive thing that you could say. That's amazing. That's an unusual story, Damien, and I hope you leaning
Oh,
into that.
oh no, I'm good with it. No,
Yeah, it's
just
very impressive.
I would think you guys would do the same, and honestly, that's how I feel.
I
I
appreciate that too.
I would think everybody.
Hey, let's go.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Out Loud podcast. We are happy to have an extraordinary person on the show, longtime teacher, father, soldier, husband, Damian Torres. Damien's youth was marred by trials and tribulations, parental instability, parental addictions, and shelter insecurity as well. Damien grew up on the mean streets of Norwalk, graduating from Santa Fe High. Damien was a product of a Vietnam veteran father. His father and mother were married to other people. This beginning is where the trouble begins.
Yeah, and then we moved around a lot uh, because of my parents, issues with uh, I I think I previously mentioned this to Chuck. We say that they're sick these
Yeah,
days, but they had drug issues
right on.
that kind of made us bounce around a lot. And I mentioned before to Chuck in our interview that I went to. Oh, geez, I counted like 13 different elementary schools one year, my
Mm.
third grade year, and ended up when we came to Norwalk in the fifth grade. My mom held me back because I couldn't read. We moved around so much and so much chaos, not really concentrating on school or doing my homework. And William Moore is where I started, and she held me back. Went to fourth grade, and that's kind of why I joined the military in high school, because I knew I was going to graduate at 19,
Mm.
and I always felt behind, and I really resented that. A girlfriend of mine when I was a junior, and I was living with her because I'd run away from home and was living with her and her parents. And she said, "Well, there's this thing called the split option program. They give you an opportunity to do your basic during your if your parents sign off, or if you're 18 like I was, they let you go to basic during the summer, and then come back and finish your senior year, and then you're supposed to go back the following summer for AIT." I needed that so bad at the time. Had this girlfriend, had a job. He worked at Newton's and was getting along fine, but eventually he lost his job because he was found in the parking lot, stoned out of his mind on heroin. And we lived in hotel motels for the next 2 years from when I was like 8 to 10. And during that time, my sister had gotten pregnant, so I'd seen that when she was 15. My brother was in and out of jail and trouble all the time. So I remember going to the methadone clinics when I was 5, 6 years old with them, riding the bus, and those were not bad times. Those were not bad times. But things kind of got really bad when cocaine got introduced into the picture. That's when we lost the house and we got into the hotel motels, like I mentioned. 7 of us, because my sister and her baby and her boyfriend had to come live with us too. So there's a period where we're at the Apollo 8 on I think Lakewood and Woodruff.
Yeah,
If
right.
anyone's familiar with that
I'm
place.
familiar.
Yeah, we were there for a good year, spent a summer there. And before my mom eventually kicked my dad out because he was just slamming his disability, basically, because he was pretty messed up from the war. He was a machine gunner for the third battalion, 9th Marines, all of 67. He landed in 66 and was there all of 67, came home early 68. Because of the complicated nature of our family, they felt it okay to he's a dirtbag. you know, he's a dirtbag. He was never a hero or any, he was just my dad, you know, my dad who kind of had problems. And I mean, to me, he was a loser, you know, like I didn't really know why he had these friends come over and they'd hide in the restroom and then we find him OD'd. And after a certain time, my mom got tired of it and she kicked him out. So I have a clear memory of him walking out with his duffel bag, still his Marine duffel bag, going home because he had family in Monterey Park. I didn't know at the time. There's a little bit of guilt for me because I didn't know, like I had mentioned, that he was and I have all the documents, you know, like they have it on his paperwork, you know, it's official. He was a machine gunner, went on 14 missions, letters home, being out there for 18 days. His first day there, or no, I'm sorry, his first week, he got what was it called? Jungle foot
Wow.
from being wet all the time.
Right.
Yeah, so he got sent the medevac tent, or he was in his cot and they started mortaring his base and he couldn't run. He couldn't go anywhere because his feet were blown up.
Wow.
So he said he just went face down in that mud and just, it felt like forever until it ended. And that was his first combat experience. He wouldn't tell me until I was 32, about 10, where he finally told me in his own words, like, what do I tell these psychologists? What do these guys want to hear? That I killed a bunch of people, that I killed men and women, like, and you could see it on him. He had never told me that. And the rest I kind of learned through the documentation, that he doesn't even know how many people. He just knows he was a machine gunner and he just went and he did what he had to do.
Interesting. You know, I'm interested.
Yeah.
You know, what talk a little bit about the coping skills that you had to learn to survive during that time as a young kid, you know, not understanding completely what was going on, but, you know, obviously having to learn how to survive and function in, you know, in school and all those kind of things. What was that like?
Oh, it was extremely difficult, but I had a huge stuttering problem. All this stuff I had seen, and the fact that my dad was out there somewhere, and I had this new stepfather that was very, very, very straight and narrow, you know, no drugs in the house.
One
not
extreme
a religious,
to the other, right?
Yeah, just the one extreme to the other. Exactly. Big drinker though, which I had never really seen. No one in my family drank. They all did the other stuff, you know. You know, my parents were getting stoned with my brother and sisters in their teens, you know, in the living room, you know, I was used to seeing that. And this guy was very different. I love him to death today. I mean, he's my dad. He's also my dad. Don't get me wrong, but he opened that way to a path. He opened a path for me. I saw an opportunity that I wasn't going to get anywhere else. I seen what happened to my brother and sister. I mean, my brother was off doing crazy stuff, and my sister was nowhere to be found with her baby. You know, she's doing her own thing. I didn't want to go to my dad's family because, and I hate to sound arrogant, I always felt like this is not right. Like, this is not,
wow.
This is, you know, I mean, from an early age, you knew this is like really bad stuff going on, you know, just, and so I guess
you had the stuttering that manifested itself.
Yes.
What else?
Yes.
What were you doing? Were you the guy that would go hide under the bed? Would you go outside and run with your friends? How would you get this out?
Basically, my mom had a lot to do with that. I think she coached me a lot. She'd always take a lot of pride in saying that she's my dad also, you know, for my dad not being there. Because, you know, my stepdad was kind of, you know, he had his own dad issues. He wasn't really an overbearing father. He just kind of provided. He was a provider. Right. But she really, really coached me a lot coming out of my shell as a shy kid. Willie Moore was great. I had a speech teacher who helped me overcome that speech impediment. In 6th grade, I was like, the comeback kid because I went from D's to C's. Coming back to my own personal pride, I kind of felt like where I come from, which was like literally I'm gonna go nowhere. I've seen people go to jail. I've seen kids go to jail and do bad things, and I was just on a cusp of it. I kind of felt like, you know what? No one expects me to do anything. I'm the last thought on anyone's, mind, my entire family, it's kind of like the black sheep. And my mom was the only one who really ever stuck her neck out for me. And that was kind of the beginning of probably my PTSD, of my anger issues, because I kind of turned that into a fire to kind of prove everyone wrong.
I think it's interesting, Damien, because you're talking about you feel different, but you're different from a really bad situation and really bad, and you're different. But so to all of us, we're like, that's good. You were a step up. You were the version 2.0, but you didn't feel that way. You felt like, oh, I'm a black sheep, and to me, that's a negative connotation. However, what you're experiencing and feeling is very, very positive, and this desire to use the fire to motivate yourself in a different direction. I mean, we know the end, Damien. We know the end, that you've gotten your degree and you've gotten your credential and you have a career and you have retirement. So we know the end.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that's pretty interesting. Even you still look back and say, gosh, I was a black sheep. I was the outcast. No one wanted to be with me. Well, damn it. We want to be with you right now today on Sunday. You know what I mean? It's like crazy.
Yeah.
I know that we had some people on that talked about, I would go and visit with my friends and I would see that normalcy. Right. And it made me see things that made me go, okay, there is a difference. And it kept them from getting caught up. Does that resonate with you at all?
Oh yeah. Because I even took that to high school, because I had all the prerequisites just to be a bad kid, right? Do all the bad things. I guess having to grow up fast. I felt like my childhood was very short. I was hanging out with my mom, she was doing meth and doing all this stuff. And, and she talked to me, not so much like a kid. So I kind of felt like when I got to high school, I knew the traps. I knew not to hang out with. And I purposely did surround myself with kids. Well, Mrs. Donnelly at Santa Fe High School, in her English class, I just got stuck in a regular English class, and I'm in there and I'm like, I don't belong here. This is way too just not what I need. So I fought to get into honors class, and
I thought you were talking about the other way.
Oh no, yeah.
I was like, what?
Oh no.
Awesome.
No. So I fought to get in there, and I never left after that. I met some good people, some friends I still have today, going against what seemed to be my path, leading me towards something else other than college. And I just fought against that, and I kind of just felt like, I can hang with these other kids and let me show them. And honestly, that just drove me. That just kept driving me. Wow. In high school, because I had nothing to lose. I felt like I had nothing. No one's gonna be disappointed in me if I try and I fail. Failure seemed to be predestined for me. And the thing about the drugs for my family, I kind of always looked at as a disability. It was their disability. Right on. It wasn't that they were not smart people. My father was highly intelligent, but geez, like he applied all those smarts to hustling and to, that part of life, that street life. And I kind of felt like I have nothing to lose taking chances. I have nothing. And I kind of carry that same mentality today.
Yeah. So Chuck and I really we're lucky enough to have the sports concept. Are you saying the academics is the way that you found the path?
Academics, that was the first thing that I found, that I could have success at. English, I really cling to because I was a late reader. Right. I start picking up, pretty heavy books for a 15-year-old. The first book I ever completed was Malcolm X's autobiography, because
hallelujah,
I was fascinated with that. Yeah, that was
Wow.
blew me away. And then the military. I knew I was really missing something. Like you had mentioned, the sports aspect for you gentlemen. That boat completely passed me by. I guess it's just an awareness, to admit to yourself what you may be lacking. I definitely knew all the discipline I was getting was kind of my own. It wasn't from my parents. It was pretty wild. I could do whatever I wanted in high school. My mom was off doing her own thing. My stepfather had moved out, so I pretty much had freedom to to really mess up. So yeah, academics became that challenge, that thing that kind of guided me through high school.
Wow.
And then the military, I always knew would kind of round me out, kind of get all the bad stuff out, whatever it is to mess up my life. I knew I really had to dodge those things. The military looked like kind of that next step in keeping me on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
To be quite honest.
So you're an Army guy?
Army guy, yes. Army Reserves.
What is
Joined
your
in
what was your job?
71 Lima, administrative specialist.
Attaboy.
Nothing too impressive.
Ah.
They send me to a postal unit in Moreno Valley, the 806 postal, which I had no idea what that meant. I was like, the post office? The military has a post office? Like, what? And then some guy tells me, well, like the three most important things when anybody deploys is supplies, food, and then mail. And I didn't know we were like the top type of unit to be deployed. So right when I got there, we had a group coming back from Bosnia, and I was on the next group to go. So I went in my first year of college in second semester, 1999. I left in February to Bosnia for 9 months on a peacekeeping mission. I didn't travel much, so they sent me to Germany, spend the next 9 months in Bosnia, in a third world country. It was pretty eye-opening.
You thought Norwalk was bad.
Yeah, right.
The eye-opening part of military life was the lack of males in the towns and the lack of running water.
Suddenly you notice there's no men. There's not a lot of men around. And then they informed me that's because of the genocide that had just happened. A lot of those men were either killed fighting or they're, taken into mass graves. And then you see some gentlemen, missing limbs. But it wasn't until this kid came to this well with a bucket and went to go get his water. And I'm standing there watching. It's 1999. Like, what is going on here?
Wow.
I have running water at home, and I thought my life was bad. And here he is getting water from a well. It just, it just gave you that sense that you're in a different world. You're in a different world. We had to run into the bunkers because there's planes flying over, and that kind of reminded me where I was, because you can kind of get lost in the buddy, it's kind of like a frat,
Sure.
It's not Iraq. We're not in war. So, you can kind of get lost in the, going to the gym, going to the mess hall, and going to your job and just working out, trying to get big. And then you get that in front of you, remind you why you're here.
Wow.
So we from Bosnia, and how long did that last? And then where'd you go from there?
I was in Bosnia from February of 99 to October of 99.
Wow.
And did 9 months there. Again, made a lot of lifetime friends, and then went back to school. The next move was continue school. I was an English major. Also, not having parents who work or have careers, you're really, really at a disadvantage, I mean, I'm going in uncharted territory for them,
Gotcha.
I mean,
Yeah.
geez, you're going to college? What? How are you paying for this? They had no idea how I'm doing all this stuff. My dad's in and out of my life. He told me my mom's got to go. Your mom's got to go. So it was a really difficult period. The only thing I could do, because I was not earning enough to get an apartment for me and her. I was taking advantage of the free rent at my stepdad's house as long as he would let me. And he had let us live there about 10 years by that time, since I was 10 to about 19, 20. And he had it, like they had been off and on. And she was just using meth and just hanging out at the house, you know, not really being productive. And so while I was living there, after I got back from Bosnia, I drove my mom to rehab. That's the only thing I could find for her, because she was unemployable. So I'll never forget that day, you know, and drove her to rehab.
Right on.
So did that, drove home and lived there for another 6 months. And then he kicked me out. Kind of the beginning of my PTSD. I think because he brought a lot of shame to me. He accused me of, I'll never forget it. Like, he knocked on my door. I opened it. You're double dipping. You're getting financial aid for school, and you're taking money for the military. Get the fuck out of my house. And I was,
I'm like, right on. That's a great job.
yeah, I
Way
know,
to figure that out,
right?
Damien. That's a good job, buddy.
I know, like I'm working it here. I'm working it here, and yeah, he just had his excuse.
Right. That's what
you
it
know,
sounds
we're all
like.
good now, but he was trying to be hurtful, and he didn't think I was gonna leave. But I mean, that's my personality. I mean, the next ass I kiss will be the last. You know, like I'm not gonna stick around. So he had never done that so directly. And, you know, I was in the military already. I probably had a lot more vinegar in me, you know, that I do now. So I was like, fuck that. So I moved in. I found a spot on my friend's couch, lived there for another 9 months on his couch before I got my own place in Huntington Beach. Got a little room.
There you go.
Yeah, it was the best 6 months of my life. They called me for Iraq, and I was so pissed off. I was about maybe 2 semesters worth of classes left to finish my degree, had my girlfriend, my apartment, everything going on. And then they pulled me for Iraq, and I was.
Let me go back just a second before we
sir.
go into the Iraq deal, and tell me a little bit about that day that you dropped your mom off. That.
Ooh, oh no, I was like an angry parent, you know. At this time, me and mom had been tight. I mean, me and my mom. I mean, geez. Survivors, bro. Like in my dad's house, there'd be times when it was just me and her. There's nobody else. She had nothing. She had no family. Was she able
to see that you were helping her, or did she feel as a betrayal?
Oh, her. She knew. She knew I was always trying to help her, but
oh wow, that's awesome.
She couldn't help herself. That was just mom. I mean, mom was just mom. There was no. God damn it! How do we get here? You know, like, I'm gonna lose you right now. Like and that was kind of the nature of my relationship with her, and would become of my father, is this kind of, I'm more the parent than they are to me, and they're my responsibility, and that felt like a big failure to me. You know, that I couldn't support her, even though I had an older brother and sister, but they were nowhere to be found. I really took it upon myself to watch over her and take care of her. And I thought the military would kind of help buffer that with my stepfather. He respect that, and he'd be cool. But no. I was really mad. I don't think I cried, really pissed off. She was really, really quiet, because this marked like the end of that. And we didn't know what was going to happen next to her. Like, we didn't know, like, Jesus Christ, like, she is, I don't know what I'm going to do with this one. No one else wanted to take care of her. You know, I'm 19, 20, you know,
Wow.
I'm like, how am I going to do this? It's like having a child, you know, it's like having.
And now a word from the content creator. We wanted to thank you for supporting us by watching our videos. We would like to ask for one more bit of support. We cannot continue without subscribers. We are searching for sponsors, but we need to prove their business will be seen. If you get any value in our videos, please consider subscribing. For those of you super fans who have already subscribed, please hit the like and leave a comment. We need those thumbs up to get the video to new folks. We need the comments to point us in the direction that will interest you. You've been with us from the start. We are in your debt. And if we don't get any sponsors, we are going to be in debt. Peace and love, Chuck and Tommy G. www.outloudpod.com.
I know from the outside,
yeah.
Damien, it really feels like, you know, you have done things. You've created a strength within yourself by taking these paths. Not very many people take academics seriously.
Mhm.
Not very many people use the military to its full extent for personal growth.
Mhm.
And here you're building yourself up so that you can take care of someone that you love. I mean, that's high character, high admiration status right there, man. But looking from the outside, I've never met you, and I'm like, this dude has got a heart of gold. This dude has some insight. Where does the insight come from?
I think you guys would do the same, and honestly, that's how I feel.
I appreciate that too.
I would think everybody would do the same under those circumstances, because I've just been pushed against the wall so many times in my life, and it's either you crumble, or you push back against it, and
Simply a choice.
yeah. Oh yeah, it's a choice. It's a choice. And I think I learned just that really early. I was a real quiet kid, and I just observed a lot. I was very observant, I guess. I couldn't see any other way, you know. My father, to link it up with my mom's rehab, the time I took my dad to rehab, this was 10 years later. We were hanging out. He was in and out Monterey Park, you know, down here doing his thing. He'd be in and out of hotels and you know, he lived on his disability, you know, just enough to get, you know, a little dope and a hooker, you know, and that was his thing. You know, he was a happy guy. He got hooked up with someone who convinced him to go to Vegas. And oh shit, you don't want my dad in Vegas. Oh hell no. He can't even own a car, you know, because he can't keep from getting messed up. So he goes to Vegas, and then I get a call one day, and he's all messed up. I need to come home, Dame. I need to come home. You know, these people, you know, they're basically running him down, you know, hustling him for his disability, get him doped up, and then they run off on his money. Say, Dad, tell me where you are. And I drop everything, gives me the address. I drive down there 4 hours. He says, hey, meet me at the Baja Fresh in Vegas, and blah, blah, blah. So drive down there one day, go to this Baja Fresh. God damn, does my dad look like a zombie walking through that parking lot? Just walking dead, just zonked out like that. I pick him up. He tells me where to go, where he's been. We go to his little apartment. He goes up there to grab like a trash, like a little Ralph's bag, plastic bag of his things. I'm like, oh my God. He smells like piss, smells terrible. And I drive him home right there. Just drive him home, drive him back to my place. He stays at my place for a week, and he gets into the Long Beach VA. Probably added another 5-8 years to his life, you know, because I don't think he would have made it back from there.
That's better. That's better than a Father's Day tie, brother.
5 years
is better than a pair of socks.
Do that, right? I would think anybody would do that for their father. Like I'm just thrown into these crazy circumstances in my life. Sometimes it's just my life. My life just puts me in these circumstances, and
I think a lot of people would have enough on their plate to be trying to finish their degree, try to hold down a job, try to have a relationship, try to have a partner. That seems like a lot.
Yeah.
So what are you leaning on for fun? What were you doing for recreation to keep your sanity?
And that was another thing I had to guide against. You know, there's a lot of drug abuse in my family, so I knew not to get involved in that. When I was in Bosnia, big time smoker. I started smoking cigarettes. Smoking. That was my outlet. And then I happened to have some good people around me, and they're like, Damien, stop that. Stop smoking. Come to the gym with us. And they made me a gym rat. You know, they made me a gym rat. When I came back from Bosnia, got my LA Fitness card, and that was kind of my outlet. Yeah. That and concerts. I love live shows. Love live shows. Even love
a whole podcast on that.
Saw some punk bands the other day. It's just so cathartic watching artistry in the moment. I just love it. I just love it. So that's a huge outlet for me.
We're all huge music fans. We've got
awesome.
We go to lots of shows, and it's a big part of our lives. And then I can relate to that tremendously.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me about going off to Iraq then.
Ooh, Iraq. I got pulled in. This would have been February of 2003. We got pulled and sent to Fort Lewis, Washington for a couple of months to train. And then we left out of there in late March to Kuwait. Sat in Kuwait for a couple of weeks before we got our final mission and orders to go into Iraq. My first experience of Iraq, we did a convoy, 1 day turnaround, taking we were the postal company, so they stuck us with the mail trucks. Because, how important are we really, so they're like, give those guys a job, we're not going to stick any, special forces with the mail. So we drove into Baghdad, 1 day turnaround, 12 hours there, 12 hours back. Honestly, things weren't that bad. Things weren't that bad when I drove in there.
Isn't that the most dangerous? That's the most dangerous highway in the world, right?
That's what they say. Yeah.
Holy moly.
But but my truck driver who had been to these places before, he told me because I'm looking out at their living situation, and it looks horrible because it looks like they're living back in Stone Age. It looks bad. And he's like, nah, don't let them fool you. Look at their teeth. I'm like, what? He's like, look at their teeth. So I pay attention. I'm like, damn, they got better looking teeth than mine. He's like, don't let them fool you. These kids are all right. They're all right. He's like, don't be opening your door. Awesome. Don't be throwing food at them. They're not hungry. So it's a little lesson,
Wow.
A little lesson there.
That's awesome.
But anyway, went out there with nothing. There's, had to use the latrine in the big old barrels and then burn it with diesel fuel later. Had to set up our old World War II tent, which was basically useless because it was 120 every day. So it was just death in there during the day, and not very comfortable at night. So we ended up just sleeping outside most nights. And we set up our post office in this bombed out our post office there with like this. I remember this mound of pigeon shit just collected, and we had to work next to that, and we always thought like, oh my god, we're gonna get fucking cancer from this shit, just breathing in this fucking and the flies were just on suicide missions. They just sit on you and just let you kill them. They're just so hot, so incredibly hot. And we did about 11 months there. 11 months there in Iraq. God. All the seasons, all the holidays. We were there with an attachment from Arizona. So it was my company from Moreno Valley and an attachment from Phoenix, Arizona, or Tucson, Arizona.
The Tucson guys didn't have any problem with the heat, apparently.
No, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. Yeah. Now you say that. When we got there, there's nothing to eat. All we had was MREs. So we would stupidly, because we're a reserve unit, we didn't have tactical vehicles. We just had our little Humvee with like, rink-a-dink doors, some with no doors. Yeah. And we got so desperate, we go into town and
do a little drive-through.
Get some ice,
some In-N-Out.
Get a lamb pizza, get a chicken that would always give us dysentery, but we didn't care, it was like fresh food. Couple of times, again, getting stuck in traffic jams on the Nile River right there. And oh man, just start sweating it out because you didn't know if anything was gonna pop off, if anyone was gonna, get brave. The only thing I ever saw as far as violence or combat was the very day I got back from leave. You get 2 weeks. Came back in left in October, came back, and the day I got back off the plane, they had bombed the Italian police setup there in town, killed like 4 guys and stuff. It was pretty bad. But aside from that, you know, it was pretty, just the environment, the people I had to deal with. Never really left the base after that. Kind of stayed on base the entire time. One thing one of my doctors had mentioned to me, when we go into these situations, we're trained to be aware. We're trained to be on our
that heightened awareness kind of thing.
Yes, right? That heightened awareness, and the fact that we may go back, especially for reservists who, you know, we do our mission, spend a couple of days. I mean, that was my situation. We came back home, maybe 4 or 5 days in country, and then you're released back to your family. It's difficult not to continue having that sense of anticipation, I should probably say, of anticipation. You're always trying to anticipate what's gonna come next. You know, am I going back to that having to ready yourself to maybe pull that trigger.
Yeah.
And you know, you go through, you know, the thoughts of, you know, whatever you've been raised with, religion, the people in your life, and how they'll think about you if you do that thing. I was a nervous wreck before we left to Kuwait, but I had a buddy who was dealing with it much differently. He was kind of downplaying it, and I kind of was, I'm the type to want to look at something, you know, straight in the face and kind of acknowledge everything that might come. And he was more just like moment by moment. No, you know, who cares? You know, we're going, and that's just it. You know, and I'm kind of thinking about all the consequences and the implications of what this means.
Yeah.
And so we all deal with it differently, but definitely when we come home, you know, it's hard to deprogram that.
It's not a fresh take, but I love the idea, or I hate the idea where they talk about, yeah, our soldiers have 10 weeks of training to go, and they got 72 hours to come home.
Yeah,
you know, like there's no debrief,
yes.
There's no like move, there's no technique, there's no classes when you come home. There's no easing back into society, man. You're just like, all right, happy to be here.
Yes.
How did you get diagnosed, and what did it manifest? Did it manifest more with like anger? Did it manifest with anxiety? How did you come upon understanding that you needed to get treatment in any way, shape, or form?
I really had to overcome this dad thing for me. He had really did a job as far as how I looked at veterans myself. I mean, geez, I mean, my dad was a mess. I figured all homeless veterans were just like my father. Ugh, like that really kept me from getting help. He sometimes even mentioned it, but I would never hear it, because that would kind of put me in this category with him. And maybe I didn't feel like I needed help, because what did I see? You know, I mean, he had seen some things. I mean, what did I really go through? It really came to a point when I saw him having to go back into the system, on and off homeless throughout my life. But the last time was really bad. Power of attorney type stuff, like talk for him, because he was so out of it. And we took him from something like Martin Luther King Hospital, one of those hospitals, to the VA in Santa Monica, and we're admitting him in, and all of a sudden he snaps out of it. Dame, don't let him take me, Dame. And woo, boy, I mean, wow. Jesus Christ, it was, woo, man, like, you know, again, like I you know, kind of feeling like you're, you know, like giving up your child, you know, your parent again.
Right.
And that really hit me. It got really difficult for me to deal with my anger and anxiety. Started recognizing the things in my own father the disassociation from people, kind of recognized that helping me in my adult relationships hit a ceiling, I felt like, which pretty much led me to think about getting some help. It kind of pushed me to look at, I don't want to be there. I don't want to put my kid through this. I don't want to put my kid. No one should go through this. So that motivated me to get some help.
What was the process from there? Who did you reach out to?
I just called the local, Google the VA number, went to the VA in Long Beach, a really good doctor. I forget his name there, but he really encouraged me to use the VA. He understood the stigma, how difficult it is for a lot of us to admit we have a problem. That is huge, I mean, I've talked to a lot of veterans myself. That's kind of why I'm talking about it today. A lot of people out there feel like, simply put, it's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of weakness, and we're very prideful men and women, and we don't want to get help from anyone. Right. First off, and I met a couple of good doctors there that have really approached it with compassion. I guess we all fear judgment, right? So they're not veterans themselves, but make you feel like getting help is not wrong.
So nice to hear things that are positive about the VA system. We always feel like it's broken, but boy, it sure is. I appreciate you saying these nice things about
there's those good people. I mean, you can't blame them for, the system that it is. I think we're all just happy to get some acknowledgement. We don't want to go out of our way. I mean, I have my sister, and my sister always tells me, why don't you use it more? It's just not. My father told me from that discretion is a better part of valor. And I think a lot of us live with that. I never knew what he meant back then by it, especially knowing who he was. When I found it in the end, I really knew what he meant by that, but definitely just, you don't boast about stuff like that, because you really don't know what the other guy did. That's for the better, or that could be for the worst. But, and he'd always say, the cliche, we all gave some, but some gave all. Yeah.
How long was it from when you got your DD-214, which is the end of your career, till you got help? Was it a year? Was it 2 years? Was it 10 minutes? Was it a decade?
Oh, late 2000. I want to say, I think 2017 I started. Yeah.
So your contract expired in 2003 or something like that?
2004. About 2000. So I was only like a couple of months out. Yeah, I think my ETS date was 2005. Yeah, 97 to 2005, 8-year contract.
So you're saying from 2005, you're living with these, for lack of a better term, demons. Or excuse me, 2017. Yeah, now I'm going to put my foot down. I'm going to go talk to some people and all that.
Yeah.
Is that about right?
That's about right. Woo. Yes, sir.
So you have your career and you have everything.
Everything. Yeah, everything's good. Everything's great. But then, the wife starts noticing some things that aren't just right. That incident with my dad kind of really, really opened my eyes to.
So where was that on the timeline?
That was about 2016. Yeah.
Okay. That really took the lid off.
Oh, it did. It did. Okay. It did, because he's probably not coming back from this. He's had a lot of starts and stops. And when he passed away at 70, it was a miracle that he even gone that long, because it hit me hard.
And Damien, what's up with your mom at this time?
She would stay in rehab for probably about a couple of years. And then she would slowly, she kind of got on her own, but she was really, like, I would find her just fucking drop dead drunk in her room, half naked, she was still using. After she got out of rehab, she was kind of still using, and she couldn't hold on to a job. So she bounced from my sister. And after that, I got her a place in Long Beach, this little studio place, drugged up, doing whatever. And then we decided move her in with us. So pretty much her last good years of life were with me and my family. Story time. Get ready, gentlemen. Grandma. Woo, grandma went out with a bang like she always does. At the time, she was dealing with liver problems, kind of hiding them from me. It really, really impacted her mental state. I think she kind of went off the deep end one day. She was supposed to pick up my kids from school. She didn't, and I knew something was wrong. So I ran home from school and found her like face down on the floor, bleeding from the head, and she smelled like alcohol. So because of her liver cirrhosis, you know, she could drink a little bit and it messes you up. Happens to elderly people, they fall, hit their head. And she was never the same. She was pretty much in a kind of like a kind of like not all there. And with her liver cirrhosis, she passed last year.
So tell us, Damien, a little bit about the fix or the lack thereof, but the process of your treatment, for a lack of better.
A lot of acknowledging that there's a problem. That's like half the battle. Right for me particularly, I can't speak for anyone else. For me, it's been a lot of acceptance. I do better with other people in a group setting. For me, it's just not having those snap judgments. You know, it's kind of that military, you know, you expect things to get done in a certain way and get done, you know, at a certain time. And I'm sometimes not very flexible with my own family in that way. So having to slow down and see other people's perspectives, people who haven't been to war and haven't had, you know, the life trauma that I have, it's taken a while for me to understand, because I'm raising children now without all this knowledge. I mean, have compartmentalized it so they don't, you know of all this stuff I've just shared. Like they have zero knowledge of it. And maybe we all do that. I don't know. This young stage in their lives, I have a 12, 10, and 8-year-old. In the world in which I'm bringing them up in, it's not really helpful right now for them.
Right.
And my stepfather complicates that a little bit because, you know, I want him to be, you know, their grandpa, and that's all they know is grandpa. They don't know my dad. They don't know that. They don't know what's coming someday. Yeah, they have just zero knowledge of that. I mean, even when he passed away, I kept them at home because it just seemed too much, just right. Too much to lay on a kid. Like, hey, here's your grandpa, you know, and that shame I have to deal with, and I'm dealing with it on a daily basis. I really am. It ticks me off to this very day. You know, I have a mentality of I'm doing the best I can with what I was given, but I'm not going to lie to you. You know, I feel like I got a raw handshake in life, you know, at the beginning, and I've been trying to make the best of it since. And see that attitude is what I got to deal with. That's part of my diagnosis, is that's still that black sheep, that bastard feeling. Yes. I mean, I live in a really nice neighborhood, but I couldn't tell you, like, I feel like I relate to anybody here. Like, I
want you to know, Damien, that like you're giving me an inspirational vibe. You know, because no, and the reason why is because I'm literally sitting in front of 200 students a day, and some of those kids have similar journeys, and I feel helpless sometimes, and I feel very pessimistic sometimes about their outcome in 30 years. And here you are kind of expressing the fact that you took it day by day, you worked on yourself, you build yourself up, you strengthened yourself physically, you strengthened yourself academically, you strengthened yourself relationship-wise, you dealt with things, you took responsibility. And all of these things are semi-foreign to the teenagers that I deal with. The teenagers I deal with don't want any of those things. They don't want to check any of those boxes. So certainly I'm not going to make you feel any better, but like, I feel like fired up that there's some success stories out there. And I really feel like our podcast is trying to bring those stories of the average guy to the world, hopefully.
Yeah.
And maybe this I'm not telling you what to do, but I can imagine your children stumbling upon this podcast and having conversation with you, like as a gateway. Whether I don't think you have a problem communicating with them. I'm just saying it would be interesting if something like that would happen,
Oh, but definitely.
How did so I'm assuming you were a teacher before 2017. So how did anything in the classroom any of your anxiety manifest itself in the classroom?
The perfectionist, just that kind of getting things right with kids. Yeah. That really shows itself.
Mr. Damien's he's on 11, huh? You're always on 11.
Yeah, I gotta bring it down a little bit. Yeah.
Well, there's no doubt Damien is one of the most highly talked about and enthusiastic teachers on campus. The kids love him. The kids love his class.
Yeah.
They love, and everybody seems to gravitate toward that energy that he brings. So I do know that, and I've only stood just outside the classroom, and I know there's a lot of energy in that classroom, and I do think that the kids do connect to that, and it's fun for them. So it's, obviously you've brought, something, whether it's on purpose or kind of organic, but it definitely does resonate with the kids, and that's a pretty neat situation.
That's badass.
Oh, thank you, Chuck. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Let me ask you this real quick.
Yes, sir.
Just because I'm a teacher, and so at the beginning of the year, I take 2 days and I tell them my entire life story.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them all the bad stuff and all the good stuff and all my. So do you share anything about with your kids, or is it strictly business and strictly professional? I feel very unprofessional when I do it, but it makes my class so much better because I could refer back and I could say, yeah, remember when I told you about this, and remember when I told you about that? They're like, yeah, okay. Do you do that, or do you keep it?
I used to. First couple of years, all business, all
wearing a
business.
tie and all that stuff. Right?
Yeah, tie, they barely, they only knew I was married and had kids. That's all I would share. Yeah. But, 12, 13 years in, especially being an English teacher, it allows me to just embed those stories in the lessons. So I'll do like a thinking map, and, the first one will be about me, and my personality, my influences. Right. I met your Dr. Sunley from Santa Fe High School, this avid teacher who saw something in me before I saw it in myself, mentioned that. The first story rewrite is about my stuttering issue.
Nice.
So I reveal that. Yeah.
What's it called? The King's Speech?
yeah, the King's Speech. Yeah, I like the movie. Yeah. The military stuff. Honestly, I hold back on that. They usually find out from other kids now, but I kind of let that sneak out. This is kind of my own enjoyment, I think.
What about your childhood
and
the substance abuse and stuff like that? Is that something
that does come out, not in the very beginning, because I just don't like. I had one professor, and I'll never forget it. He cried in front of us, and I was put off by it. I just kind of felt like, not that I was disingenuous, but I don't want to seem manipulative, and I don't want to use my pain to grab their hearts. But I love pulling it out, like with the stories. We'll read The Rise to the Streets of Memphis, and how the boy has to stick up for himself, and the mom encourages him to go out there and use physical violence if you have to. So those will be times where I'll pull out some of those hard lessons of, sometimes you got to do what, no matter what, or this or that lesson. I also use one of my reprimands from the military. I'm infamous. I live forever on the internet under specialist SPC Damian Torres. I wrote an editorial, and they actually published it. I couldn't believe it.
Who published it?
The Stars and Stripes.
Wow.
When I was in Iraq, I was like I mentioned, I was pretty mad about being there because had my life going, everything. And you know, some guys were like, no, we're gonna find weapons, you know, weapons of mass destruction here. And I was like, nah, nah, nah. I was one of those, nah, 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 it's not here. Blah, 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 blah. And I use this as a lesson of, if you're gonna buck authority, just be ready for the consequences, okay? You can buck them, but you better be ready to take it on the chin.
Right.
So I wrote a small paragraph about Bush visiting us on Thanksgiving. I was very cynical about it. Got some hate mail back from it.
Oh, wow.
And but that wasn't the end. When they lined us up on our last day there, all right, award season, here we go. And they lined me up second to last.
Oh,
and I didn't know that meant anything. Handing out the medals, pinning the medals on. Specialist Damian Torres. And mind you, I've been in the military for 7 years. I was still a specialist. That was done on purpose because
right.
I never, you know, I was a little smart ass. I was like, I don't know if that much responsibility being a sergeant's worth the amount of pay they're going to give me. So I'm just going to stay right here where I am. So I was that smart ass little soldier. You know, I wasn't, you know, but I expected to get my medals for being here over a year. And what they give me? A goddamn certificate of appreciation for my year in Iraq. Oh, and I knew right then and there why. It was because of that damn editorial I had written. I don't think they ever forgot.
Personal stuff. For the longest time, I thought being a mystery was the best way to be a coach.
Yeah.
And I don't think it, you know, and I coach.
You still got to work on that, coach.
In the early days. I'm still a mystery to my friends.
A little bit of mystery.
Yeah, well, it's all the people that don't know me. All the people that don't know me know all about me.
Right. Oh, that's funny, coach.
But it's such a, you know, we're taught as men to, you know, not cry and all those things. And it's such a freeing experience when you start to let some of that stuff go and you know, and share some of your stuff. And I'm just amazed, you know, that you come on and you've been so forthright and honest with us, Damien, because I think it's going to help somebody. There's going to be somebody that's going to listen to this, that it's going to resonate, whether they've been exactly in your situation or not. Those things are important for men of honor to be able to share. And you know, I'm interested in moving on a little bit to talk about your joys and your family and you know, what you got going these days and what's happening now. Go ahead, Tom.
Just real quick, just to close the circle. So now you've had some work, you've done work, deliberate work on yourself. But I assume there's some days out of the 365 that there's some, for lack of a better word, darkness settling in, or you feel something coming around the corner, or you feel like you're on edge and you don't know why. What is your go-to thing? Is it to go to a show? Is it to put the headphones on and crank up the music? Is it to go to the LA Fitness? Is it what I mean, now you have kids. I don't know if it's spending time, you know, the children are involved, but when you feel, because I think people do feel it coming on. I know I do. And what is your go-to, your easy, your parachute button?
That is, it's easily just giving myself, just giving to myself. It doesn't mean going and buying something or taking a long trip. It could just mean taking an hour to myself, detached from all my responsibilities. Oh, nice. My kids make me very happy. I love hanging out with my children, love hanging out with them, traveling with them, but it's stressful. It's stressful because you're being protector, provider. So for me, I found yoga over the last couple of months is been amazing, especially free yoga. I do free yoga on the BLUFF in Long Beach.
Oh, you're that guy. I've seen.
I'm that guy. Oh yeah, I'm that guy. I'm that guy. Oh yeah, I don't care. I just don't care. I'm out there. Yeah, before I used
you're not going to be Mr. Torres this fall. You're going to be Swami Torres. It's a Swami. Exactly. I am your teacher.
Yeah, exactly. But when you feel those days coming on, like for me, it's Christmas Eve because that's when my dad passed. It's my birthday. My birthdays are like a dark cloud just coming. I can see it coming a mile away. And it's really, really, for me, it's it's giving to myself. I've given to people. I've given my energy, my time. That angst and that anxiety for me comes from a place of not feeling like I've given to myself, essentially.
Cool.
And it's allowing yourself to be selfish. I think we're providers, like I mentioned, we're protectors, you know, we're semi-alpha males.
Yeah.
And it's really, really difficult to let myself go. When I went to that show on Wednesday, I went and saw this group.
Who did you see? Just give him a shout out.
This group called Kevin, just small little LA band, and this group called Slaughterhouse. Awesome band. You know, just gives you that release, you know, allow yourself to, you know, feel the music or feel the beat. If dancing's your thing, if boxing's your thing, working out, just allowing myself to get lost in it. That has really, really helped a lot, because sometimes my responsibilities, and I'll leave myself at the very, very end, and I don't become a very nice person when I've given all I can give. Of course,
yeah.
And you know, there's nothing left for me. So for those out there who feel those days coming on, be selfish. Be selfish with yourself, and don't feel guilty about it.
Well, you can't help anybody unless you're squared away.
Yeah, you
Let's
gotta
be
help
honest,
yourself.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
For as much as we want to help people, you know, I want to help 100 football players, but if I'm a hot mess, I can't help them at all.
Exactly.
You know, I'm actually taken away from them, probably. You know, so. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
True.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what do you got going? What's the future hold for you? What's your bucket list and things like that? What are you looking to do going forward?
I want to do a lot more camping. I took my kids camping last month by myself, just me, and really showed myself like man, I can do this. I've always been scared of camping by myself, or you know, taking the kids and being that one. So a lot more camping.
How they like
future.
the MREs, bro?
Oh, we didn't get a chance because we got chased away from the darn fire. There's a fire in Lone Pine. Yeah, we had to get up at 3 a.m. I packed them in the car, packed everything up myself. They didn't have a chance to do it. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. But love the MREs. I got a box of them right here, actually.
I was just joking. I figured you'd never eat another MRE in your life.
Oh, no. My kids are looking forward to it. They want to torture me with it. Yeah. And definitely a big bucket list thing is to do the running of the bulls with my children, with my boys. I did that.
So tell us about that. You did that already once, right?
Yeah, I did that 13 years ago when I knew we were gonna have my son, and I thought this may be the last time I can do this, you know, for a long time. So I went with a army buddy of mine to Pamplona, Spain, and ran with the bulls. Yeah, ran with the bulls.
You're our second guest that has done that. It's a very cool deal, man.
Yeah. I noticed that. Yeah, the guy previous. Yeah.
And he was an army guy.
Yeah,
he was another soldier.
I was like, wow, what is this? It's like a rite of passage, I guess, for all of us.
Well, what are you gonna do to top all the rest of that stuff? You know,
I know.
Out there, you know?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
great.